I am Dr. Peter Bacci, the editor-in-chief and founder of Pain Relief Revolution. What I want to talk to you about today is what I think is the evil stepmother in the story about pain, which is fear. Fear seems to go hand in hand with chronic pain and debilitating pain problems, and can be one of the huge factors that limits us and keeps us in a box from getting better. And learning about our fear, understanding our fears that are holding us back or keeping us from getting better, and learning how to overcome them is a huge part of overcoming chronic pain and winning the battle against our pain and eventually getting the relief that we want to have for ourselves from the pain that binds us. So, what is fear and why do we have that? Well, certainly there's normal fears, right? I'd be afraid to jump out the window of this two-story building because I'd probably break or die or kill myself, and that's good, that's normal, that keeps me safe. But what happens when we start to think about things or develop fears that instead of protecting us are actually inhibiting us from getting better? And that's what happens to people who are in pain, and experiencing debilitating chronic pain problems. One of the concepts that we use in pain management is something called fear avoidance or fear of re-injury. Fear avoidance, fear of re-injury. Basically two names for a concept of once we've been injured and we've been hurt in some way, we become afraid of re-injuring ourselves. We become afraid of feeling the pain associated with that event. And that fear starts to take over what we do and how we move or what we do with our bodies to the point that it keeps us from being able to recover from our injuries and get well again. And the fear of re-injury is a really important concept in pain management. It's something that we really work hard on in helping our patients understand it and gradually learn how to work through it. So let me give you an example. Let's suppose I sprain my ankle. Sprain my ankle, it hurts, it's swollen, it's red, it's hot. And for the first couple weeks, I elevate it and ice it. I don't really, go anywhere, do anything. Maybe I use crutches if I have to go somewhere. And then after a couple weeks, the sprain or strain starts to heal, the swelling comes down, and then I start to use it again, I start to walk again, I start to get my body going and my ankle working, and after a while I'm okay and I'm able to get around and do things, I'm able to recover from that. Now let's suppose I sprain my ankle, but let's suppose I wait 6 months. I keep my leg elevated for 6 months, I don't use it, I don't do anything with it, and now, at that point, I try to start to get going again, to start to walk again, or try to rehabilitate myself. Now what's happened? Well, it's a lot more of a complicated situation that I'm now in 6 months later versus a couple weeks later, because in that 6-month time period, my whole body's changed. I haven't used this leg, this foot, this ankle for 6 months, so it's become very weak, very atrophied, very thin looking, and at the same time I've been relying for 6 months on my other leg, my right leg, to get around and do things. So now this leg hurts because I've been overusing it so much, the knee's hurting in this leg, and then eventually my back starts to hurt because of the change in my mechanics and the stress I'm putting on my back because I'm not using the left side of my body normally, and eventually it spreads all the way up through my whole body. So now everything has changed. My whole body has changed because of my 6 months of keeping my leg elevated or inactive. That creates a much more complicated rehabilitation process. And that's exactly what fear avoidance does to people who are in pain or have been injured and are limited by fear of re-injury barriers to recovery. It keeps them from doing things that they need to do to recover well, and because of that, once they do try to get engaged, do try to do the work or the therapy or the exercises, it becomes a lot more complicated and can feel very overwhelming for them and make it that much harder to get better and creates a much more complicated situation. So if you're in fear, if you're limited by your fear, what is the what is the answer? What is the antidote to fear? And in my book, the word is faith. It is faith that overcomes fear. Fear can keep us in a box. It can keep us in bed, in our rooms, afraid to leave the house. It can put a box around our world. And the way that we can overcome that is by developing the faith in ourselves, and faith in the tools that we learn to work through our recovery, faith in the tools and techniques that we learn to help us manage pain, manage flare-ups, that we can start to, use our injured, foot or ankle if that's where the problem is, or wherever whatever we're working on. So this is not easy to come by, and it's hard to just turn one off and turn the other on. It's very hard to get to a place where you have that faith that you need to be successful in overcoming your pain. And in order to get there, what I think has to happen is there are a number of steps that have to happen in between to get you there. And what I call these steps is confidence. Confidence is baby steps. It's learning little by little things that you can do to help you overcome your fear. And as you build your confidence, you eventually get to a point where you do have the faith that you need to succeed with this problem. And it's when people go through that process that I see them overcome the barriers to their recovery, their fear, so that they can move on and have successful, engaging lives.